Welcome, dear viewers. For more exclusive, thrilling stories every week, join our membership. Sit back, relax, and sip your coffee. Enjoy. News from the Logan Banner Tribune, June 23, 1932. Local woman found dead on Trace Mountain body of Mrs. Mamie Thurman, 31, discovered under mysterious circumstances. There is a road in Logan County, West Virginia, where truckers still cross themselves before hauling loads after dark. Route 22, they call it now. 22 Mine Road to us locals. Though old-timers remember when it was Trace Mountain, back when Mamie Thurman took her last walk up that winding stretch of gravel and never came home. My name's Dalton Vance, and I've been running freight through these hollers since I dropped out of Marshall University back in '09. 14 years of diesel fumes and pre-dawn coffee stops at the Shamrock station off Route 119. Started with a beat-up Freightliner I bought from my Uncle Harlan, hauling coal equipment for Massey Energy before they went belly up. These days I contract for whoever needs machinery moved through the southern coal fields, dragline parts, continuous miners, roof bolters, the kind of loads that pay well because nobody else wants to navigate these mountain roads with 60 tons of steel strapped to their trailer. Most runs, I take Route 10 through Man, then cut across to Delbarton. It's longer, sure, but the grades are manageable and the curves won't have you white-knuckling the wheel. Only problem is when they're moving heavy equipment out of the old Sturrit mine. That's when dispatch routes you up 22 Mine Road, and that's when the old-timers at the Shamrock start telling their stories. My granddaddy knew Luther Thurman, Earl Hatfield told me last Tuesday, stirring sugar into his coffee with a plastic spoon. Said Mamie wasn't the first to go missing up there, just the first they found. I'd heard it all before. Every mountain road has its legends, its ghost stories passed down through generations of miners and loggers, phantom hitchhikers, strange lights, the usual folklore you'd expect from isolated communities where entertainment meant gathering around somebody's porch to swamp tales. But Earl leaned in close, breath sour with chewing tobacco. You ever get a load going up there? You remember what my granddaddy said? There's rules to that road. Rules that go back before they ever cut it for the mines. I'd laughed it off, paid for my coffee, and headed out into the pre-dawn darkness. Small-town superstition, nothing more. I should have listened to Earl Hatfield. I really should have listened. The call came through on Thursday afternoon while I was checking the fifth wheel on my Peterbilt in the lot behind Browning's truck stop. My dispatcher, Ronnie Blankenship, sounded tired. The kind of tired that comes from arguing with clients all day. Got a rush job, Dalton. Triple rate if you can pick up tonight. I wedged the phone between my shoulder and ear, working grease out from under my fingernails with a shop rag. What's the cargo? Roof bolter from the Sturrat site. Needs to be in Beckley by dawn for refurbishment. Fletcher Mining's paying premium to get it there before their safety inspection. The Sturrit mine. That meant 22 Mine Road unless I wanted to add 4 hours to the haul. I thought about Earl's warning, then about the mortgage payment coming due on the house in Chapmanville. Triple rate? Plus fuel surcharge. You interested, or should I call Woody Abkins? Woody was my competition, and Ronnie knew mentioning him would seal the deal. I'll take it. When do I pick up? Soon as you can get there. Guard at the gate has the paperwork. The drive to Sturrat took me through Holden, past the abandoned company houses with their caved-in roofs and kudzu-strangled porches. The mine entrance sat 3 miles up a dirt access road, marked by a rusted sign and a newer one warning about federal property. The security guard, a kid who couldn't have been more than 20, handed me an envelope along with the shipping manifest. Mr. Fletcher said to give you this, he said, not meeting my eyes. Said you'd need it for the haul. Inside the envelope, folded twice, was a single sheet of paper, typewritten, not printed, the letters slightly uneven like they'd come from an old manual machine. At the top, underlined, "Rules for Safe Passage, 22 Mine Road." My first instinct was to laugh. Somebody at Fletcher Mining had a sense of humor, playing into the local legends. But the guard wasn't smiling, and when I looked closer at the paper, I noticed it was old. The edges yellowed, the folds worn soft from handling. "This a joke?" I asked. The kid shrugged, already walking back to his booth. "Just follow them. That's what Mr. Fletcher said. Just follow them and you'll be fine." The roof bolter sat on a lowboy trailer, already secured with chains thick as my wrist. A Caterpillar model, probably worth $500,000 even used. I did my walk-around inspection, checking each chain and binder, testing the trailer lights. Everything looked solid. Professional job on the tie-down, better than most. By the time I pulled out of Stirrat, the sun was touching the ridgeline, painting the strip-mined mountains the color of dried blood. I had maybe an hour of daylight left. The paper with the rules sat on my passenger seat, held down by my thermos. The first few miles were standard mountain driving, watching for coal trucks, taking the switchback slow, using the engine brake to save my service brakes. I knew these roads like the veins on my hands, every pothole and blind curve. But as I turned onto 22 Mine Road proper, something felt different. The road was in better shape than I remembered. Fresh gravel, recently graded. The county sure hadn't done it. They barely kept Route 10 patched. Maybe Fletcher Mining maintained it for their equipment moves. That would make sense. At mile marker 3, where the road began its serious climb, I finally picked up the rules. Might as well see what kind of joke they were playing. Rule 1. Between sunset and sunrise, maintain exactly 25 miles per hour. No faster, no slower. Your speedometer must not vary by more than 2 miles per hour. Rule 2. If you see a woman in a white dress walking along the shoulder, do not slow down. Do not speed up. Do not look at her face. Rule 3. At mile marker 7, you will hear knocking from inside your trailer. Do not stop. Do not investigate. Turn your radio to AM 1340 and leave it there until you pass mile marker 9. Rule 4. If your headlights begin to dim between mile markers 11 and 13, pull onto the shoulder immediately. Turn off your engine. Count to 100 before restarting. Do not look in your mirrors during this time. Rule 5. The road will appear to fork at mile marker 15. Take the left path regardless of what your GPS indicates. The right path has been gone for 90 years. Rule 6. If you must stop for any reason other than Rule 4, leave an offering on your driver's seat before exiting the vehicle. Tobacco or salt preferred. Do not use coins. Rule 7. You will reach the Beckley turnoff at mile marker 22. Do not celebrate. Do not relax. Maintain speed until you cross the county line. I set the paper aside, shaking my head. Somebody had put real thought into this. The specific mile markers, the bit about AM 1340, that was actually an old station out of Logan that only broadcasts static now. Creative stuff. The speedometer read 45 miles per hour. I eased off the accelerator, watching the needle drop as I approached the first steep grade. No reason not to humor them. Triple rate was triple rate, and if Fletcher Mining wanted me to drive their preferred speed, so be it. The needle settled at 25 miles per hour just as the sun disappeared behind Trace Mountain. The grade steepened past mile marker 4, and I found myself constantly checking the speedometer. 25 miles per hour felt wrong for this stretch. Too fast for the curves, too slow for the straightaways. My Peterbilt wanted to lug down on the hills, the engine dropping below optimal RPM. I should have been in the lower gear, but shifting would mean speed variations. The headlights swept across abandoned mine buildings perched on the mountainside like broken teeth. The Pocahontas Coal Company had operated up here until the 70s, leaving behind concrete foundations and rusted head frames. In daylight, they were just industrial ruins. At night, they looked like something else entirely. A flash of white in my peripheral vision. She stood at the edge of my headlight beam, maybe 50 yards ahead on the right shoulder. White dress, just like the rules said. Walking with her back to me, unhurried, as if out for an evening stroll. No coat despite the October chill. No reflective gear on a dark mountain road. My foot instinctively moved toward the brake. Common sense. Slow down, give her room, maybe offer a ride. Then I remembered Rule 2. 25 miles per hour, not 1 mile faster or slower. As I drew closer, details emerged. The dress looked old-fashioned, like something from my grandmother's photo albums. High collar, long sleeves, hem dragging in the gravel. Her hair hung loose down her back, dark against the white fabric. She never turned at the sound of my approach, never stepped further from the road. The Peterbilt's mirrors gave me a perfect view as I passed. I kept my eyes locked straight ahead, watching the yellow center line, fighting every instinct that told me to check if she was all right. In my peripheral vision, I caught movement, her head beginning to turn toward the truck. Do not look at her face. The speedometer needle crept up to 27. I eased off the throttle, heart hammering against my ribs. Just a woman walking. Maybe from one of the old houses up the holler, the ones without power where people still lived like it was 1950. Plenty of explanations that didn't involve. She appeared again at mile marker 5. Same white dress, same measured pace, same position on the shoulder. That wasn't possible. I'd passed her 30 seconds ago, moving at 25 miles per hour. She'd have to be running, no, driving to get ahead of me. But there'd been no car, no lights, no sound of an engine. This time I was ready. Eyes forward, hands steady on the wheel, speedometer locked at exactly 25. As I passed, the cab filled with the scent of funeral flowers, carnations and lilies, sweet to the point of sickness. The temperature dropped like I'd driven into a pocket of winter air. She was at mile marker 6 too, and June 5th. Each time the same scene. White dress, dark hair, that careful walk along the gravel shoulder. Each time that smell, that cold, that movement in the mirrors I wouldn't let myself see. Mile marker 7 came into view, retroreflective numbers glowing in my headlights. I grabbed the rules, scanning them again, knocking from the trailer. Radio to AM 1340. I reached for the dial, already dreading what came next. The first knock was subtle. Could have been the load shifting, a chain working loose. The second came harder, deliberate, from inside the trailer bed. Not possible. I'd secured that roof bolter myself, checked every inch of that low boy. Nothing could be. The strikes shook the whole rig, violent enough to feel through the fifth wheel connection. My mirrors showed the trailer lurching with each impact, like something massive was trying to punch through the floor. The roof bolter, all 30 tons of it, was moving. I yanked the radio dial to AM, spinning past static and dead air until I hit 1340. White noise filled the cab, harsh and absolute. I turned it up until it drowned out everything else. The engine, the knocking, my own ragged breathing. The woman in white stood at mile marker 8, closer to the road this time. Close enough that I had to edge left to avoid her. Close enough that I could see her bare feet on the gravel, skin the wrong shade of pale. Close enough that when she finally turned her head, I had to physically wrench my gaze away. The knocking stopped at mile marker 9. The static cut to silence so complete it made my ears ring. I fumbled for the volume knob, turned it down, found only dead air across the entire AM band. When I switched back to FM, Conway Twitty was halfway through Hello Darling on the classic country station out of Charleston. My hands shook as I reached for my thermos. The coffee had gone cold, but I needed something to cut through the taste of funeral flowers still coating my throat. The speedometer read 24. I nudged the accelerator, brought it back to 25. The rules hadn't mentioned what happened if you saw her between mile markers 7 and 9. They hadn't mentioned that nothing would sound like someone who knew exactly where to hit to damage the cargo. They hadn't mentioned a lot of things. Mile marker 10 passed without incident. So did 11. I started to relax, shoulders dropping from where they'd been bunched around my ears. Maybe that was it. Maybe I'd passed whatever test Fletcher Mining had arranged. Some kind of hazing for new contractors, locals in on the joke, special effects and hidden speakers, and my headlights dimmed. Not all at once. First the left side, like the bulb was dying. Then the right, fading to a sick yellow glow that barely reached past the hood. The dash lights flickered. The engine stuttered, caught, stuttered again. Mile marker 12. I checked the rules, already knowing what they said. Pull over immediately. Engine off. Count to 100. Don't look in the mirrors. The shoulder was narrow, barely wide enough for the rig. Gravel crunched under the tires as I eased to a stop, mindful of the steep drop-off to my right. Through the dying headlights, I could see the valley below, dark houses scattered like dice, the occasional security light marking a newer trailer or prefab home. I turned the key. The engine died with a shudder that ran through the whole truck. Darkness rushed in like water, absolute except for the faint glow of stars through the windshield. Even the dash lights were gone. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Something moved in the driver's side mirror. I closed my eyes, started counting out loud to focus on the numbers instead of the footsteps on gravel getting closer. 21 Mississippi, 22 Mississippi. A hand pressed against the driver's door. I could hear it clearly, skin on metal, sliding upward toward the window, reaching for the handle. 50 Mississippi, 51 Mississippi. The passenger mirror showed movement too. How many were out there? How many had been waiting in the dark between the abandoned houses and dead mines? 75 Mississippi, 76 Mississippi. The door handle clicked. Tested from outside, pulled once, twice. The locks held. Thank Christ I'd hit the button out of habit when I'd stopped. 99 Mississippi, 100. I turned the key. Nothing. Turned it again, pumping the clutch, and the engine caught with a roar that seemed impossibly loud. The headlights blazed back to full brightness, showing empty road ahead and empty shoulders on both sides. In the mirrors, I looked without meaning to. The darkness behind me writhed like smoke given form. I got the rig moving, fighting the urge to floor it. 25 miles per hour felt like crawling when every nerve screamed at me to run. The speedometer needle wavered between 24 and 26 as I worked to find the sweet spot, that exact speed the rules demanded. Mile marker 13 came and went. My headlights held steady, cutting through darkness that seemed thicker than it should be. No streetlights up here, no houses close enough to the road to offer even a glimpse of normalcy. Just me, 18 wheels, and 30 tons of mining equipment that had gone silent in its chains. The radio crackled. Conway Twitty cut out mid-verse, replaced by a sound like breathing. Wet, labored breathing, like someone with fluid in their lungs. I reached for the dial, then stopped. The rules hadn't said anything about the radio after mile marker 9. Maybe this was normal. Maybe. Dalton. My name, whispered through the speakers. Not broadcasted. The breathing continued underneath it. Someone was in the signal, speaking directly to me. Dalton Vance, Chapmanville. House on Crawley Creek Road. My address. They knew my address. Your wife left last year. Your daughter Emma lives with her now. Visits every other weekend. I grabbed the radio dial, spun it hard, static across every frequency, and underneath it all, that wet breathing getting louder. Then, cutting through like a knife, "You should have taken Route 10. The radio died. Complete electrical failure. No static, no lights, nothing. But the engine kept running. The headlights kept shining. I focused on the road, on maintaining speed. I'm not thinking about how they knew about Kelly leaving, about Emma, about the weekend visits that never felt long enough. Mile marker 14 appeared in my headlights. 1 more mile to the fork. I checked the rules again, using my phone's screen for light. Take the left path, regardless of GPS. The right path has been gone for 90 years. My Garmin showed the road continuing straight. No fork, no turn, just 22 Mine Road winding up the mountain toward the Beckley connection. But these units updated constantly, pulled data from satellite imaging that should show. There. In the distance, where the road curved around a massive oak tree, I could see it. The pavement split, left fork climbing higher up the mountain, right fork disappearing into a wall of kudzu and young pines. The GPS showed nothing. According to the satellite, that right fork didn't exist. I slowed for the curve, watching the speedometer drop to 20, then 15. Too slow. The rules said maintain speed, but physics said roll the truck or make the turn. I chose the turn, feathering the brakes, praying whatever enforced these rules would understand. The right fork looked better. Newer pavement, recently painted lines, reflectors gleaming like cat eyes. The left looked abandoned, cracked asphalt, no markings, grades too steep for a loaded truck. Everything about the scene screamed to take the right. I wrestled the wheel left. The truck protested, engine lugging as the grade steepened beyond anything that should be legal. First gear, crawling at 10 miles per hour, then 8. The speedometer needle dropped towards 0 as the engine strained against the weight. This wasn't possible. Roads didn't get rebuilt this steep, not for commercial traffic. Behind me, in the mirrors I couldn't stop checking, the right fork was already gone. Not overgrown nor distant, gone. Like it had never been there at all. The grade leveled out at 15 miles per hour. I found second gear, then third, nursing the speed back to 25. The road ahead looked normal again, following the ridgeline toward Beckley. According to the GPS, I was driving through empty air, 50 feet to the left of where 22 Mine Road should be. Mile marker 16 passed, then 17. The woman in white hadn't appeared since mile marker 9, but I kept expecting her around every curve. The darkness outside seemed to press against the windows, thick enough to leave fingerprints. At mile marker 18, the engine coughed. Just once, a missed firing that made the whole truck shudder. The tachometer dropped, bounced back. I checked the gauges. Oil pressure good, temperature normal, fuel showing 3/4 full. Had to be bad diesel. Water in the fuel. Something simple and mechanical and fixable. The engine died completely at mile marker 19. No warning, no gradual failure. One moment grinding along at 25 miles per hour, the next coasting in neutral while warning lights Christmas treed across the dash. I had enough momentum to reach the shoulder, barely. The air brakes hissed as I stopped, the sound seeming to echo longer than it should have. Rule 6. If you must stop for any reason other than Rule 4, leave an offering on your driver's seat before exiting the vehicle. Tobacco or salt preferred. Do not use coins. I kept emergency supplies in the side box, flares, triangles, basic tools. No tobacco. But there was salt in my lunch bag, little packets from Wendy's I'd grabbed with my last meal. I tore open 3 of them, poured the salt in a small pile on the driver's seat. It looked pathetic, like something a child would do playing make-believe. The side box was 20 feet away, 20 feet of exposed walking on the dark mountain road. I grabbed my mag light, checked the mirrors, nothing moving in the darkness. Yet, the first step out of the cab, my boot crunched on something that wasn't gravel. I swept the flashlight down. The ground was covered in photographs, dozens of them, scattered like fallen leaves around the truck. Old photos, edges yellowed and curled. I knelt, picked one up. A woman in a white dress standing in front of a company house. Dark hair pinned up, serious expression, hands folded at her waist. On the back, in faded pencil, Mamie Thurman, 1931. Another photo. Same woman, this time with a man in miner's clothes. Luther and Mamie, Christmas, 1930. They were everywhere. Under the truck, trailing back down the road, disappearing into the darkness beyond my flashlight beam. All of Mamie Thurman. Some formal portraits, some candid shots of her gardening or hanging wash, a life documented and discarded on a mountain road. The side box lock was stiff, took 3 tries to open. I found my fuel treatment, the bottle of diesel 911 that might clear water from the system. Maybe, if that's what was wrong. If anything mechanical was wrong at all. Behind me, gravel crunched. Footsteps, slow and measured. I spun, flashlight beam cutting through darkness. Nothing more. But the photographs were moving, stirring in a breeze I couldn't feel, arranging themselves into patterns I didn't want to understand. More footsteps, from the other side of the truck now. Multiple sets, surrounding me. The flashlight caught glimpses, a flash of white fabric, a pale hand pulling back into shadow, faces that weren't quite right. I fumbled with the fuel treatment, hands shaking as I opened the tank access. That won't help. The voice came from directly behind me. A woman's voice, clear despite the wet rattle underneath it. I didn't turn. Couldn't turn. Just kept pouring the treatment into the tank, pretending this was normal, pretending she wasn't there. Luther didn't mean to. The mine made him crazy all those hours in the dark. He loved me. He said he loved me. Cold fingers touched my shoulder. Through my jacket, through my shirt, straight to skin. Cold like groundwater, like deep caves where sun never reached. But they never found who did it. Never found who left me up here with my face all wrong. I screwed the fuel cap back on, walked to the cab without running. Didn't look back. Didn't acknowledge the fingers trying to grip my jacket. Didn't see the shapes crowding closer in my peripheral vision. The salt on the driver's seat glowed white in the flashlight beam. I brushed it aside, climbed in, turned the key. The engine roared to life immediately. No hesitation, no roughness, like it had never stopped at all. 25 miles per hour. Eyes forward. Don't think about the handprints on the windows, or the photographs stuck under the windshield wipers, or the sound of someone crying in the sleeper berth behind me. Mile marker 20. Then 21. Almost there. Almost done. The crying got louder. Not from the sleeper, from the trailer. 30 tons of steel shouldn't carry sound like that, but I could hear it clearly. A woman sobbing, begging, words lost in grief but the meaning clear. Then another sound. Metal on metal. Rhythmic. Like a pickaxe on stone or something else on bone. Mile marker 22 appeared in my lights. The Beckley turnoff, just like the rules promised. A modern intersection, well lit, with actual traffic passing on the crossroad. Civilization. Safety. I started to ease off the throttle. Rule 7 echoed in my memory. Do not celebrate. Do not relax. Maintain speed until you cross the county line. The county line was 3 miles past the turnoff. 3 more miles of this. I kept the speedometer locked at 25, turned onto the Beckley Road. The crying from the trailer stopped. The photographs flew off the windshield. Normal traffic surrounded me. Other trucks, late-night cars, the blessed ordinary world. But I maintained speed. Exactly 25 miles per hour, hazard lights on, ignoring the angry honks from vehicles stuck behind me. The Raleigh County sign appeared in my headlights. I crossed the line and immediately pulled into a Shell station, hands shaking so bad I could barely set the brakes. The roof bolter sat perfectly secured on the lowboy, not a chain out of place. I sat in the Shell station lot for 20 minutes, engine idling, trying to stop my hands from shaking. The fluorescent canopy lights felt like salvation after that darkness. Normal people pumped gas. A Raleigh County Sheriff's deputy grabbed coffee inside. The world of the living, bright and banal and beautiful. My phone showed 17 missed calls from Ronnie. I hit redial, held the phone with both hands to keep it steady. "Where the hell have you been?" Ronnie's voice crackled through. "Fletcher Mining's been calling every 10 minutes. You were supposed to check in at the Stir-Out Gate when you left." "I'm in Beckley. Had some engine trouble on 22 Mine Road." "You took 22? Christ, Dalton. I would have approved the longer route. You all right?" I watched a family pile out of a minivan, kids arguing over who got to pick the snacks. Normal. Real. "Yeah, I'm good. Where's the drop?" "Fletcher's facility on Prosperity Highway. Guard will be waiting." "And Dalton?" "They want to talk to you about the haul. Something about paperwork." The Fletcher mining yard was exactly what you'd expect. Chain link fence, security lights that turned night into harsh white day, neat rows of heavy equipment waiting for repair. The guard waved me through without checking paperwork. He already knew who I was. A man waited by the maintenance shop, dressed too well for 2 a.m. at an equipment yard, pressed khakis, polo shirt with the Fletcher logo, clipboard in hand like a prop. He smiled as I climbed down from the cab, the kind of smile that never touched the eyes. "Mr. Vance, I'm David Fletcher. I trust the journey went smoothly." I stared at him. David Fletcher was 70 if he was a day, ran the company from a Charleston office, not midnight yards. This man couldn't be older than 40. "You're not David Fletcher." The smile widened. "David Fletcher III, my grandfather. I handle special logistics for the company. Shall we inspect the cargo?" We walked to the lowboy together. My legs felt unsteady, like I'd been driving for days instead of hours. The roof bolters sat exactly as loaded massive drill heads and steel frame gleaming under the yard lights. Nothing disturbed, nothing wrong. "Excellent," Fletcher said, making notes on his clipboard. "The equipment arrived intact. That's what matters." "The rules," I said. "That paper your guard gave me. What was that about?" Fletcher looked up from his writing. In the harsh light, his face seemed wrong, too smooth, like a mask that didn't quite fit. "Insurance requirements, liability concerns, you understand? Insurance doesn't cover ghosts. Doesn't it?" He pulled an envelope from his pocket, handed it over. "Your payment. Triple rate as agreed, plus a completion bonus. 5,000 extra for following the prescribed route guidelines." I opened the envelope. Cash, more than I'd see in 3 months of regular hauls. Enough to catch up on the mortgage, fix the transmission in my pickup, maybe even take Emma somewhere nice for Christmas. "What's really going on?" I asked. Fletcher checked his watch. "It's 2:47 a.m., Mr. Vance. You've had a long night. Perhaps you should head home. Get some rest." The woman in white, Mamie Thurman. I saw Dash. You saw what the road wanted you to see. His voice dropped, lost its corporate polish. That's what it does. Shows you things, makes you follow patterns. The rules keep you moving, keep you from becoming part of it. You did well, better than most. Most? We've used 17 contractors for equipment transport this year. You're the fourth to complete the route successfully. The others... He shrugged. The road keeps what it takes. My stomach turned. 13 drivers. 13 people who hadn't made it through. You're sending people to die. We're moving equipment that needs to be moved. The Sturat mine produces 500,000 tons of coal annually. The roof bolter needs refurbishment. The only route is 22 Mine Road. He folded his clipboard under his arm. We provide the rules. Drivers make their own choices. Those aren't choices. That's business, Mr. Vance. Supply and demand, risk and reward. He started walking toward the office. Your paperwork's complete. The yard crew will unload the equipment. Drive safe heading home. I wanted to grab him, shake answers out of his smug face. But the envelope full of cash weighed heavy in my pocket, and Emma needed school clothes, and the mortgage company didn't care about ghost stories. I climbed back into my truck, left the yard, pointed the Peterbilt toward Chapmanville. The drive home took 3 hours. I kept to main roads, well-traveled highways with streetlights and traffic. Stopped at an all-night Sheetz for coffee, stood under the bright lights longer than necessary, watched normal people living normal lives. By the time I reached Chapmanville, dawn was breaking over the hills. My house sat dark at the end of Crawley Creek Road, empty since Kelly took Emma to her mother's place in Huntington. I parked the truck, grabbed my overnight bag, fumbled for keys with fingers that had finally stopped shaking. The envelope from Fletcher went in the kitchen drawer, under the pile of bills it would pay. I showered until the hot water ran out, trying to wash away the smell of funeral flowers that clung to my clothes. Fell into bed as the sun painted my bedroom walls gold. I dreamed of Mamie Thurman. Not the thing on the road, but the woman from the photographs. Young, hopeful, hanging laundry, while her husband left for another shift underground. Dream. Mamie turned to me, smiled, opened her mouth to speak. Coal dust poured out instead of words, black and endless, filling the room, filling my lungs. I woke choking on nothing, afternoon sun slanting through the windows. My phone showed 3 missed calls from unknown numbers and 1 from Earl Hatfield. I called Earl back. Heard you took a load up 22 Mine Road last night, he said without preamble. News travels fast. Ronnie's cousin works dispatch at Fletcher. Said you made it through. A pause. That true? I'm here talking to you, aren't I? Others made it through too. For a while. I could hear him spit tobacco juice, the ping of it hitting a coffee can. You feel all right? Sleeping okay? I'm fine, Earl. Sure you are. That's what Woody Adkins said. 3 weeks later, they found his truck at the bottom of Horsepen Mountain. Said he drove straight off the edge, middle of a clear day. No skid marks. Woody was drinking again. Everybody knew. Bobby Maynard then made the 22nd mine run in August. Week later, walked into his garage, closed the door, started his truck. His wife found him the next morning. People have problems, Earl. Doesn't mean Jennifer Klein, Ricky Bowman, Sarah Adkins, Woody's sister. All of them took the Fletcher contract. All of them made it through just fine. All of them dead within a month. I sat on the edge of my bed, still in yesterday's clothes. The room smelled like diesel and something else. Something floral and sweet. What are you saying? I'm saying the road don't let go easy. I'm saying maybe you should come by the Shamrock, talk to some folks who know about these things. I'm saying you got a daughter who needs her daddy around." After he hung up, I walked to the kitchen, pulled out the envelope of cash. The bills felt normal, looked normal, probably spent normal too. But underneath the money, stuck to the bottom of the envelope, was a photograph I hadn't noticed before. Black and white, edges yellow with age. A group of miners standing in front of a company store. In the background, barely visible, a woman in a white dress, and beside her, translucent as morning fog, another figure. Male, tall, wearing modern clothes, jeans and a flannel shirt. My clothes, my face, standing next to Mamie Thurman in a photograph from 1931. I drove to the Shamrock truck stop that evening, the photograph burning a hole in my shirt pocket. Earl was holding court at his usual corner booth, 3 other old-timers nursing coffee and swapping lies. They went quiet when I walked in. "Boys, give us a minute," Earl said. The others filed out without argument, leaving their coffee steaming on the table. Earl gestured to the opposite bench. "Sit. You look like hell." "Thanks. Feel worse." I slid the photograph across the table. "Found this in my payment envelope." Earl studied it, holding it up to the light. His face went gray. "Lord Jesus, that's you. Can't be me. Photos from 1931. I got eyes, don't I?" He set the photo down like it might bite. "That's you standing next to Mamie Thurman, sure as I'm sitting here." The waitress, Beulah, brought coffee without being asked. Her hands trembled as she set the cup down. She'd seen the photograph. "My Meemaw used to talk about the road," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Said it weren't natural the way they cut it. Followed old paths, older than the Cherokee. Places that should have been left alone." "Beulah," Earl warned. "He needs to know." She looked at me with eyes that had seemed too much for her 40-some years. The mining company back then, Pocahontas Coal, they hired a woman from up the mountain. Granny Moss, folks called her. Said she could find the best coal seams just by walking the land. I wrapped my hands around the coffee cup, seeking warmth I couldn't feel. What's that got to do with Mamie Thurman? Granny Moss warned them, said the mountain had rules, old agreements that shouldn't be broken, but coal was king, and money talks louder than warnings. Dula glanced around the empty diner. They cut the road where she said not to. That very night, 3 miners disappeared, just walked off their shift and never came back. "Mining's dangerous work," I said. "People die." "Not like this." Earl leaned forward. "They found those miners 3 days later, standing in their own homes, solid as you or me. Except they were still missing. The bodies in the houses, they looked like the miners, talked like them, went to work like them. But the real men never came back from the mountain." My coffee tasted like ash. "That's not possible." "Neither is you being in a photo from 1931. Earl tapped the photograph. "The road takes people, Dalton. Sometimes they're bodies, sometimes just pieces, the parts that matter. So what? I'm some kind of copy? A ghost?" "You're you," Beulah said. "For now. But the road's got its hooks in. You'll start noticing things, missing time, waking up in places you don't remember going, and the dreams." "How do you know all this?" She rolled up her sleeve. A scar ran from wrist to elbow, old but deep. "My husband drove for Fletcher Mining. Made the run 6 times before they changed the rules. Made it so you only had to go once. He came back different after the 3rd trip. By the 6th, I was sleeping with a knife under my pillow." "Different how?" "Cold. Empty. He'd stare at walls for hours, like he was looking through them at something else. Started talking about the mountain calling him home. One night I woke up and he was standing over Emma's crib. Emma? The name hit like ice water. Your daughter's name is Emma? Was. We lost her 20 years ago last month. The night my husband tried to take her up the mountain. Said the road needed an offering. Needed to complete some kind of pattern. She pulled her sleeve back down. I stopped him, barely. I stood, knees weak. I have to go. My daughter, she's with her mother, but Earl caught my arm. Running won't help. The road's patient. It'll wait. And what do? You find Granny Moss's kin. They still live up on Tony Fork, past the old Greenway Cemetery. Maybe they know something that can help. I left cash on the table, headed for the door. Behind me, Earl called out, Dalton, don't drive alone. And whatever you do, don't go back to 22 Mine Road. It's got what it wanted from you. Going back would be. The door swung shut on his warning. The drive to Tony Fork took me deeper into the hollers than I'd been in years. Past the last streetlight, past the last maintained road, following deer trails and logging paths that my truck barely fit through. The GPS gave up trying to find a signal. The radio pulled in nothing but static. The Moss place squatted at the end of a dirt track, a ramshackle collection of buildings that might have been a house once. Smoke rose from the chimney despite the warm evening. Dogs announced my arrival. Skinny things with yellow eyes that watched from the shadows but didn't approach. A woman emerged from the main building before I could knock. Younger than I expected, maybe 30, with prematurely gray streaks and black hair. She looked at me like she'd been expecting company. You took the road, she said. Not a question. Last night, Fletcher Mining hired me to. I know what Fletcher Mining does. She stepped aside. Come in. Quick, before full dark. The inside was cleaner than the outside suggested. Bundles of herbs hung from the rafters. Mason jars lined shelves, filled with things I didn't want to identify. She gestured to a wooden chair by the fire. I'm Sadie Moss. Granny was my great aunt. I keep the old knowledge, what's left of it. She studied my face, then pulled a jar from a high shelf. Drink this. What is it? Sassafras and whiskey mostly, other things. It'll help you see clear. The liquid burned going down, tasted of earth and growing things. The room sharpened, colors growing vivid. The fire cast shadows that moved wrong, showed shapes that shouldn't be there. Now, Sadie said, settling into the opposite chair. Tell me about your drive. I told her everything. The rules, the woman in white, the photographs, the voices on the radio. She listened without interrupting, occasionally adding wood to the fire. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. The road's not what people think, she finally said. It's not haunted. It's hungry. Hungry for what? Connections, lives, the threads that bind us to this world. She pulled a leather journal from beside her chair. Granny wrote it all down. The mountain was sacred once, a boundary between worlds. The Cherokee knew to leave it alone, the Shawnee before them. But white men came with dynamite and greed, blasted through barriers that took millennia to grow strong. She opened the journal, showed me pages covered in spidery handwriting. Every person who drives that road at night feeds it. Most just lose a little bit. A memory, a dream, maybe a year off their life. But some, like you, catch its attention. You followed the rules, showed respect. That makes you useful. Useful how? The road needs anchors in this world. People who can cross between what is and what was. That photograph proves you're already sliding. Part of you is in 1931, standing next to poor Mamie. Part of her is here in 2023 riding in your trailer. My hands clenched. How do I stop it? You don't. The road owns a piece of you now, but you can learn to live with it, maybe even use it. She stood, pulled another jar from the shelf. Take this. Mix a pinch in water every morning. It won't cure you, but it'll keep you grounded in the present. Most days. Most days? Some nights you'll slide anyway. Find yourself in 1931, 1952, 1987. Years when the road was especially hungry. You'll see the others it took. Miners, drivers, families who built too close to the mountain. Don't interact with them. Don't try to change what happened. Just observe and come back. And if I can't come back? She met my eyes. Then you become another ghost on 22 Mine Road, another white figure walking the shoulder, warning drivers who won't listen. I took the jar, stood to leave. My daughter. Is she safe? For now. The road marked you, not her, but Dalton. She touched my arm, and her fingers were ice cold. The road's getting hungrier. Fletcher Mining keeps feeding it, and it keeps wanting more. Someday soon, the rules won't be enough. When that happens, nowhere will be safe. Outside, full dark had fallen. My truck started reluctantly, headlights seeming dimmer than they should. As I navigated the narrow track back toward civilization, I caught glimpses in the mirrors. A woman in white keeping pace with the truck, a man in miner's clothes, a child with cold dark eyes. The past following me home. The first slide happened 3 days later. I was washing dishes after dinner, hands deep in soapy water, when the kitchen flickered. Not the lights, the kitchen itself, like a TV changing channels. One moment I stood at my sink with its chipped porcelain and leaky faucet. The next, I was in the same room, but the walls were covered in faded floral wallpaper, a wood-burning stove where my electric range should be. A woman sat at the kitchen table, peeling potatoes into a metal basin. She wore a house dress that had seen better days, hair pinned up in a style decades out of date. She hummed while she worked. In the sweet by and by, the hymn my grandmother used to sing. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, just stood there with my hands in dishwater that had gone cold as mountain spring. The woman looked up, straight through me, and I saw her face. Kelly. My ex-wife, but not. This Kelly was older, worn down by harder living. No laugh lines around her eyes, just the deep grooves that came from worry and want. She set down her paring knife. Better get washed up, she said to the empty air where I stood. Your father will be home soon. Heavy footsteps on the porch. The door opened, and I walked in. Not me, but a version in dirty coveralls, face black with coal dust, except where safety goggles had left pale circles. This other me moved past where I stood frozen, kissed the Kelly who wasn't on the cheek, left dark smudges on her skin. Long shift, he said in my voice. Lost another one in the number 4 shaft. Jimmy Pritchard. Roof came down before he could... The kitchen flickered again. I gasped, stumbling backward, my own floor solid under my feet. Water had overflowed the sink, soaking my shirt. The clock showed 3 hours had passed. 3 hours I'd been standing there, watching another life in another time. My phone rang. Kelly's number. Emma's been asking about you, she said without preamble. Wants to know if you're coming to her school play Friday. Of course, I wouldn't miss it. I grabbed a towel, mopped at the water. Kelly, does your family have any history in Logan County? Mining families, maybe? A pause. Why are you asking? Just curious. Doing some... genealogy research. My great-grandmother was from there. Died young. Some kind of accident. Dad never talked about it much. Another pause. Dalton, are you okay? You sound off. I'm fine. Tell him I'll be there Friday. Front row. After we hung up, I mixed Sadie Moss's powder in water, drank it down. It tasted like grave dirt and lightning. The edges of my vision steadied, the past retreating to where it belonged. For now. That night, I dreamed of the number 4 shaft. Timbers groaning, the mountain pressing down with the weight of ages. Jimmy Pritchard calling for help as the roof bowed inward. And through it all, the sound of pickaxes, not mining coal but digging something out. Something that had been buried for good reason. I woke to my phone ringing. Ronnie Blankenship. Got another Fletcher job, he said. They asked for you specifically. No. It's not 22 Mine Road. Just a regular haul from their Beckley yard to Charleston. Easy money. Every instinct screamed to refuse. But the bills were piling up, and Emma needed braces, and turning down work meant Woody Adkins got the contracts instead. Fine. When? Tonight. Midnight pickup. The Fletcher yard in Beckley looked different at night. The equipment arranged in patterns that hurt to follow, shadows falling in directions that defied the security lights. The same 2 young David Fletcher waited by the gate. Mr. Vance, so glad you accepted our offer. You said it wasn't 22 Mine Road. It's not. Just a simple transport to our Charleston facility. He handed me paperwork. Though, I should mention, the route does pass by the turnoff for 22 Mine. You'll want to keep your eyes forward when you do. Why? His smile was all teeth. The road might recognize you, might try to call you back. You're one of the few who've completed the full circuit and lived. That makes you valuable. I'm not going back there. Of course not. That would be unfortunate for everyone involved. He gestured to a flatbed loaded with mining equipment I didn't recognize. Strange angles and purposes that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. This machinery is quite special, experimental, designed to dig deeper than conventional equipment allows. Dig for what? What do you think, Mr. Vance? Coal? Copper? He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We're after older treasures, things the mountain has kept hidden since before men walked upright. Your journey on 22 Mine Road opened certain pathways. This equipment will help us explore them properly. I wanted to walk away. Should have walked away. But the money was already in my account, and Fletcher's contracts had a way of finding you if you tried to break them. Ask Bobby Maynard. Ask Jennifer Klein. Ask any of the drivers who thought they could just say no. The haul to Charleston started normal enough. I-77 north, light traffic, easy driving. The equipment on the flatbed stayed quiet, though I kept checking the mirrors, expecting it to move or change. The radio played classic country, Hank Williams wondering why you didn't love him like you used to do. 20 miles out of Beckley, I saw the sign. Route 22, 1 mile. My hands tightened on the wheel. Just an exit. Just a turn-off I'd pass at 65 miles per hour. Nothing could happen at highway speeds. The radio crackled. Hank's voice warped, slowed, became something else. Dalton. Not Mamie this time. A man's voice, rough from years of coal dust and Camel cigarettes. Dalton, it's Luther. Luther Thurman. I reached for the radio dial. My hand wouldn't move. I need you to understand. About Mamie. About what happened. The voice grew stronger, pushing through decades of static. It wasn't me who killed her. It was the road. The road itself. The exit approached. Route 22, innocuous green sign, standard highway marker. But underneath, spray painted in reflective letters, someone had added, Mine Road, no return. She went walking where the old paths crossed. Found something in the woods, something the mountain had kept sleeping. It followed her home, wore her shape, spoke with her voice. But it wasn't her anymore. My speedometer dropped without my foot leaving the gas. 65 to 55 to 45. The truck slowing like invisible hands were pulling it back. I tried to explain to the police, told them about finding her in the kitchen at 3 in the morning, peeling her own face off like old wallpaper, told them about the thing underneath, all roots and coal and hungry darkness. They didn't believe me. 35 miles per hour. 25. The exit ramp was right there, calling like a siren. So, I did what I had to do. Took her back to the mountain. Let the road have what it wanted. But it wasn't enough. Never enough. The road remembered her, and now everyone who drives it meets what's left of my Mamie, still walking, still searching for the way home. 15 miles per hour. Cars honking, swerving around me. The equipment on the flatbed groaned, metal singing harmonics that made my teeth ache. Don't let them dig, Dalton. Don't let Fletcher wake up what's sleeping under the mountain. Some hungers are too old to... I yanked the wheel hard right, tires screaming as I fought the pull toward the exit. The truck shuddered, jackknifed, then straightened as momentum carried me past Route 22. The radio went dead. The speedometer surged back to normal. In the mirrors, the exit sign receded into darkness. But for just a moment, I saw her, Mamie Thurman, standing at the bottom of the ramp. Not walking this time, waiting. And behind her, shadows that might have been trees, or might have been the others. All the drivers who'd taken the road and never really left. The rest of the drive to Charleston passed in silence. I delivered the equipment, collected my paperwork, headed home as dawn broke over the mountains. But I couldn't shake Luther's words. The road remembered. Fletcher was digging. And somewhere under all that rock and coal, something old was stirring. That afternoon, I drove to Huntington. Kelly answered the door in paint-stained jeans, clearly in the middle of redecorating. Dalton? What are you doing here? It's not your weekend. I need to see Emma, please. Something in my face must have convinced her. She called up the stairs, and Emma came bouncing down, 11 years old and perfect. Everything good I'd ever done in this world. Dad, did you come to help Mom paint? Actually, I said, kneeling to her level, I came to ask if you'd like to stay at my place for a few days. We could work on your science project, maybe drive up to Camden Park if it's still open. Emma lit up, but Kelly frowned. Dalton, what's going on? I met her eyes over Emma's head. Please, just for a few days. She must have seen something there, some echo of the man she'd once trusted with her life. Emma, go pack a bag. Just a few days like your dad said. While Emma raced upstairs, Kelly grabbed my arm. Whatever this is about, you keep her safe. You hear me? That's all I want. To keep her safe. But even as I said it, I wondered if anywhere was safe anymore. The road had marked me. Fletcher was digging deeper. And under the mountain, things that had slept since before human memory were beginning to wake. Emma fell asleep in the truck on the drive back to Chapmanville, her science project, a volcano made from papier-mâché and hope, balanced carefully in the back seat. I kept checking the mirrors, watching for things that shouldn't be there. The sun was still up, but shadows seemed to pool in the wrong places, darkness gathering where it had no business being. My phone buzzed. Earl Hatfield. You need to see the news, he said without greeting. Channel 3, now. I found a news station on the radio. The reporter sounded shaken, professional composure cracking around the edges. Explosion at the Sturrit mine site has left 3 workers missing and several more hospitalized. Fletcher mining representatives claim a methane pocket was breached during experimental deep drilling. But witnesses report strange phenomena in the moments before the blast. Local resident Harlan Cook described seeing, quote, the ground breathing like something alive before the explosion. Environmental officials are en route. I turned it off. Emma stirred but didn't wake. The house felt different when we arrived. Nothing I could point to, just a wrongness in the air like the pressure before a storm. I carried Emma inside, tucked her into the spare bedroom I'd painted purple last summer in hope of more visits. She mumbled something about butterflies and burrowed deeper into the blankets. I mixed Sadie Moss's powder, drank it down, then called her number. "You felt it," she said, instead of hello. "The explosion. They breached something. Worse than that, they broke the seal Granny's people put in place, the one that kept the old things sleeping." I heard glass breaking in the background, her voice tight. "How far are you from 22 Mine Road?" 15 miles, maybe 20. Not far enough. That road was a boundary, keeping things contained. Now, ... More breaking glass. Now they're waking up, all of them. Every hungry thing the mountain ever swallowed. What do I do? I have my daughter here. Keep her inside after dark. Salt the windows and doors. And Dalton? If you start sliding again, if the past comes calling, don't fight it. Ride it out and come back. Fighting makes you vulnerable. Makes it easier for them to keep you. The line went dead, not disconnected, consumed by a static that sounded like whispers in languages that predated words. I salted every entrance, using the commercial-grade road salt from my truck. Emma woke while I was working on her bedroom window. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Just making sure no bugs get in, sweetheart. Go back to sleep." "Is this about your job? Mom says you've been stressed about work." 11 years old and too perceptive by half. "Just a precaution. Everything's fine." She studied me with Kelly's eyes, that same look that used to see through all my bullshit. "You promise?" "I promise to keep you safe. Always." That satisfied her enough to lie back down. I finished the salt lines, checked them twice, then settled in the living room with coffee and my grandfather's shotgun. Outside, dusk painted the mountains purple and gold. Beautiful, if you didn't know what was stirring underneath. The first sign came just after full dark. Dogs throughout the neighborhood started howling. Not normal barking, but the kind of primitive sound that reached back to when they were wolves. Then silence. Complete and sudden, like someone had thrown a switch. I stood, checked the windows. The streetlights were on, but their light seemed thin, struggling against the darkness that had weight and substance. In the distance, toward where 22 Mine Road wound up the mountain, the sky flickered with colors that shouldn't exist. Movement at the edge of the yard. I raised the shotgun, then lowered it. A man in mining gear stood at my property line, just outside the salt barrier. Old-style equipment, carbide lamp on his helmet, lunch pail in one hand. He stared at the house with empty sockets where eyes should be. Another figure joined him, a woman in a flour sack dress, a child who couldn't have been older than Emma. More and more, filling the street, all standing perfectly still, all watching with those hollow gazes. My phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Vance. David Fletcher, sounding less composed than before. "We have a situation." "You think?" The drilling encountered an unexpected cavity. Our equipment registered some unusual readings before we lost contact with the crew. A pause filled with shouting in the background. "We need someone who's successfully navigated 22 Mine Road to help with containment. Go to hell. I understand your reluctance. But consider, every person in Logan County is at risk, including your daughter. We can offer protection, resources. Your protection is worth less than... The lights went out. Not just mine, the whole neighborhood, darkness rolling across Chapmanville like floodwater. My phone died mid-word. In the sudden quiet, I heard Emma call out, "Dad? Stay in your room, baby. I'm coming." I felt my way down the hall, guided by memory and the faint starlight through windows. Emma sat up in bed, scared but trying to be brave. "Is it a power outage?" "Yeah, just a power outage." I sat on the edge of her bed, kept the shotgun out of sight. "Want to play a game? We'll camp out right here, tell stories like we used to when you were little." "I'm not little anymore." "No, you're not." I kissed her forehead. "But humor your old dad." We huddled together in the dark, and I told her every happy story I could remember. Fishing trips with her grandpa. The time we built a snow fort that lasted until March. Anything to keep her mind off the shapes gathering outside. They pressed against the windows now, those hollow-eyed remnants. The salt lines held them back, but I could feel their hunger, their need to be remembered, to be real again. The woman in the flour sack dress might have been Kelly's great-grandmother. The child could have been anyone's lost baby, any of the 1,000 tragedies the mountain had swallowed over the years. Then the sliding started. One moment I sat in Emma's room in 2023. The next, I was in the same room, but the walls were unpainted lumber, the floor rough planks. A different child lay in the bed, a boy with dark hair and familiar features. My features, generations removed. "Papa," the boy whispered, the mountains making noises again. I tried to speak, to warn him, but I had no voice in this time, could only watch his heavy footsteps approach down the hall. A man entered, my face again, older, wearing the exhaustion of 12-hour shifts underground. He carried a carbide lamp and a pistol. "Hush now, Luther," he said. "Just the earth settling." Luther Thurman as a child, decades before he'd married Mamie, before the road would claim her. My ancestor, my blood, part of the chain that led to me sitting in this room across a century. The scene flickered. 1952 now, the room half finished with drywall. A woman packed clothes into a suitcase while a girl, Emma's age, watched from the bed. "Are we really leaving, Mama?" "Yes, baby. Aunt Ruth has room for us in Columbus, away from the mountain, away from..." She glanced at the window where shapes moved in the darkness. Away from all this. Another flicker. 1987. A teenager with a Walkman. My bone structure, but softer features. She wrote in a diary by flashlight. "They say don't go near 22 Mine Road after dark. But Bobby Maynard dared me, and I'm not chicken. Going to bike up there tomorrow night. Prove there's nothing but stories. Mom would kill me if she knew, but..." "Dad?" Emma's voice pulled me back. I gasped, finding myself in 2023 again, her hand gripping mine. "You went away," she said. "Your eyes were open, but you weren't here." "I'm here now." I hugged her close, felt her solid and real and alive. "I'm here." Outside, the shapes were changing. Not just the hollow-eyed dead anymore, but things that had never been human. Shadows with too many angles. Creatures of coal and stone and appetite that had slept beneath the mountains since before the first people came. My phone, dead moments ago, suddenly blazed to life. Fletcher again. "The containment failed," he said without preamble. "The drilling team is gone, absorbed. The hole is widening, and things are coming through. Old things. Hungry things. What do you want from me?" "You've driven 22 Mine Road. You've touched both sides, the living and the lost. You're the only one who might be able to negotiate." "Negotiate with what?" "With whatever we woke up. The road was a treaty, Mr. Vance. A bargain made generations ago. Drive the road, follow the rules, feed it the occasional traveler, and the mountain stays quiet. We broke that treaty." His voice cracked. "God help us. We broke it, and now they want a new deal." I looked at Emma, at the salt lines that wouldn't hold forever, at the darkness pressing in from all sides. "What kind of deal?" "The kind written in blood and years, the kind that requires someone who can walk between worlds." A pause. "The kind that needs someone already marked by the road." Outside, something massive moved through the streets of Chapmanville. Not walking, flowing, like a tide of darkness given form and purpose. The mountain itself, come to collect what was owed. "I'll need guarantees," I said. "Protection for my daughter, for the town." "Done. We have a helicopter en route. It can take your daughter somewhere safe while I go back to 22 Mine Road." "Yes." I looked at Emma, memorizing her face. "Okay. But if anything happens to her, I'll make sure whatever comes out of that mountain finds you first." "Understood." The shapes outside pulled back, creating a corridor of clear ground. Waiting. The mountain had heard our bargain and wanted to see if I'd honor it. I had no choice. I'd driven the road, followed the rules, taken the money. Now, the bill had come due, and the only currency that mattered was the one thing I'd sworn never to give: myself. From the Logan Banner Tribune, October 28, 2023. Local truck driver Dalton Vance, 41, has been reported missing following the industrial accident at the Sturret mine site. Vance was last seen entering the restricted area around 22 Mine Road to assist with containment efforts. Fletcher Mining has suspended all operations pending investigation. His daughter Emma is safe with relatives in Huntington. From the Journal of Sadie Moss, November 15, 2023. The mountain sleeps again. Whatever bargain Dalton Vance struck holds for now, though I fear the price he paid. The old things have returned to their deep places, and 22 Mine Road stands empty. No more truckers take that route. Fletcher Mining abandoned their equipment, their drills, their hunger for what lies beneath. But the road remembers. Always, the road remembers. Text message thread, Emma Vance's phone, December 3rd, 2023. "How was school today?" "Fine. Mrs. Patterson says I can make up the science project." "That's good, honey. Mom, do you ever hear from Dad?" "No, baby. I'm sorry. Sometimes I dream about him. He's driving his truck on a road that goes nowhere. Just driving forever. He looks happy, though. Come home. We'll talk." From a letter found in the abandoned Fletcher mining office, author unknown. The terms are simple. The road must be fed, as it always was. One driver once a month, following the old rules. But now there must be a guardian. Someone who exists between the living and the lost. Someone to ensure the rules are followed. The bargain kept. He walks the shoulder now, checking his watch, maintaining the proper speed. Travelers report seeing him in their mirrors, a man in flannel and jeans, translucent in the headlights, guiding them through safely if they follow the rules. If they don't, well, the mountain is always hungry. Police report, West Virginia State Patrol, January 18, 2024. Officer responded to reports of abandoned vehicle on 22 Mine Road. 2019 Honda Civic registered to Marcus Chen of Charleston found at mile marker 15. No sign of driver. Vehicle in neutral. Engine running. Doors locked from inside. Personal effects undisturbed. Search of surrounding area revealed no trace of subject. case forwarded to missing persons. Note: this is the third such incident since November. Recommend closing road to civilian traffic. Note addendum: request denied. Fletcher Mining still holds mineral rights. Road must remain accessible. Emma Vance recorded for school project on Local Legends, September 2024. My dad was a truck driver. He used to tell me stories about the roads he traveled, all the places he'd seen. Last year, he had to go help with something at the old Stirret mine. There was an accident, they said. He never came back. But sometimes, when Mom's asleep and the house is quiet, I hear his truck, that old Peterbilt with the engine that rattled just so. I go to the window and look out, and I swear I can see him parked at the end of our street, just sitting there, watching the house, making sure we're safe. Mom says it's just my imagination. That grief makes us see things that aren't there. But I know my dad. He promised to keep me safe. Always. And Dalton Vance never broke a promise. The kids at school say 22 Mine Road is haunted now. They dare each other to drive up there after dark, but nobody ever does. They say if you do, you'll see things. Dead miners, a woman in white, and a trucker who makes sure you follow the rules. They say if you don't follow the rules, the mountain takes you, just like it took him. But I think maybe that's not right. Maybe the mountain didn't take him. Maybe he gave himself to it, to keep the rest of us safe. Maybe he's still out there, driving that dark road forever, making sure the old things stay sleeping. Maybe that's what heroes do. They drive into the dark so the rest of us can stay in the light. I miss my dad, but I'm proud of him too, even if I'll never see him again. Even if all I have left are dreams of diesel smoke and promises kept. Final note, found carved into a tree at mile marker 22. The road provides, the road protects. The road remembers Deve 2023.